to build a trusted, reliable, crypto-based firm that focused on two key components. Number one is regulatory compliance. We talked a lot about regulation previously and how it provides some degree of support to consumers. The second is information security. We went out to make sure that customers are protected from an information security perspective.
When it comes to crypto, it can be a very confusing subject. But with Emirates announcing recently that they're willing to take Ethereum as a payment for flights, as well as Bitcoin for all of their services, we can see that crypto is becoming a bigger and bigger thing. And my guest today works for Crypto.com, and they are at the forefront of understanding regulation and providing a secure place for people to invest their money. So please welcome to the show, Karl Mohan from Crypto.com. Do you think cash will be gone altogether?
Cash usage today is roughly only about 5% of all transactions in Australia. 5%. It used to be just 10 years ago, roughly about 30%. There is a huge benefit moving towards a cashless society. It becomes more efficient, it becomes more reliable, there's less tax evasion, so it helps the economy grow. The downside is, and we've seen this in a number of markets, when systems fail.
Well, is it time to talk about crypto again? Karl, thanks for coming to join us on the show today.
Oh, thank you very much, Spencer, for having me.
Crypto and Crypto.com, my goodness, what a subject. This industry has just kept going from strength to strength to strength over the course of the last 10 years. It's been really interesting watching the last 5 years. Those wild predictions about it will go to 100,000 one day, everyone laughed at, and then it did. It will go to 150, and then all of a sudden you're starting to see people going, oh, these predictions could be true. And then just recently we've had in the press, we had a bit of a sell-off recently, and the markets have gone down, and everyone goes into that typical cycle of mad panic for 5 minutes. Oh my God. And I say to people, don't look at the 1 day, the 1 week, look at the 1 year, then you'll see, okay, things go up and down. But if you stay in it for the long term, it works out. So today we're going to talk about all things crypto, all things Crypto.com, give people a better understanding of what's going on in the market, also give people an understanding of how you choose, because with all of that positivity, there's also been some stories along the way that have made people wary and edgy about stuff.
Yeah.
But what I'd first like to do is get so that people can understand you. Okay, tell me about your journey into the crypto world. Okay, how you joined Crypto.com, what you do for them, and what kind of conversations do you have over the dinner table when you're with friends?
Oh, fantastic question, Spencer. Look, I'm an ex-banker, right? Started my career in banking or consulting first, then banking. And during this time in banking, I started exploring payments, right? So we were processing payments. So I worked for a very large bank, heading up their payments division, and came across XRP, Ripple, as you know, who were promoting back in 2014 the ability for banks to send funds overseas in seconds when the traditional banking system used to send funds in days. So started exploring this, got crypto curious, trying to figure out what this is all about, and along the years, developed a passion for it. Now, for a lot of people, they start their crypto journey. Everyone knows Bitcoin. I thought Bitcoin was a scam. So did, Michael Saylor back in the day had tweeted that Bitcoin's a scam, to the point where now I'm a big believer of it. But prior to that, I started my journey in believing in Ethereum. So for those who don't know about Ethereum, it was built to be programmable compared to Bitcoin. And that's where I started my journey. And today, I lead the entire organization's operations globally, excluding Americas, as well as heading up our financial services division, which is our foray into traditional finance.
That's really interesting because everybody, I think, can identify with a time when they were trying to make a transfer of money,
Yes.
a telegraphic transfer, going back all those years ago. If you were lucky, you could send a fax to the bank to get them to make
Correct.
the TT. And it would take days to hit the receiving account.
Correct.
And I used to think when I was a financial advisor getting people to transfer money to investment institutions that the banks were having it off and there was a bit of scam they were having so
Yeah.
that they could sit on the cash a bit longer,
Yeah.
get a bit more
Yeah.
interest out of it before
Yeah.
it was transferred across. So I remember, and everybody will remember that experience. And so for you, seeing this new type of technology that was going to mean people
Yeah.
can transfer money instantly, that's a game changer piece of technology.
100%. It was eye-opening. It's like, the first time, I lived inlands in Malaysia. So I grew up in Malaysia, inlands, and the first time going to the ocean, right? And you go, wow, there's this vast space and body of water. And it was eye-opening. I love the beach till today. I love the beach. I love going to the ocean and spending time there, right? And it was the same experience that I had when I first came across this ability to send money anywhere in the world instantaneously in a click of a button, right? It was totally eye-opening for me and have pursued that passion since that day,
Some of
trying to
these
focus.
things and the propaganda around the negative propaganda around crypto for me is a little bit like a pharmaceutical company,
Yes.
okay, not wanting information to come out because it works against them. And the bank doesn't want you to use this system because it's not in the interest of the central bank or the banking system. They make their money, they have their ways.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
you come out with another way that means they become obsolete and they don't like it.
Yeah.
And so when I see that, I'm like, someone's come out with something. Let's poo-poo it. No, it will never
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
never, it's
Yeah.
never going to be good. And,
Yeah.
and then we'll stick to what we've got.
Yeah.
But you're seeing this evolution with technology enabling these things to happen. But again, I don't necessarily think that most people would understand, or the average person would understand that whether we call it XRP or Ripple in this example, a token that was created from that would make sense. So one of the ways that I like to describe crypto to people is just imagine a startup.
Yes.
Okay, a company is starting up, they're raising capital. What way do they do it? So they've got their business plan, they've got their deck, they're out there talking to potential investors. Those investors have different interests. Some are into stuff, some are not, but they're pitching. They go to next pitch fest, the next pitch fest, then out there, pitch. Oh, finally they find someone.
Yeah.
And he goes, I'll give you $100,000. And
Yep.
they're like, yeah, we're on our way. In exchange for some equity.
Yep.
And at the beginning, maybe it's a bigger chunk that they want to give away, but they give away that chunk of equity. They get the 100,000 and they can go on and build their business before the next fundraise.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an angel to a series A, B, C, and everything else. Crypto to me, okay, is quite simply exactly the same. A crypto token has been created from a company with a business plan and an idea.
Correct.
And rather than to go to ask mum and dad to put some cash in and then Uncle John and then go out to the market and get some cash, they've gone and created a digital way of doing it.
Mhm.
And they're raising capital from the market
Yes.
of people that want to invest in this potential opportunity.
Yes.
Is that fair?
But a little bit of both, right? So maybe I'll take a step back and provide a little bit of an analogy. And if you go back in time, right, and you look at how we communicated, we would have written letters to people, right? And that took time to arrive. And, then we sped up the movement of these letters globally, right? So you could, it used to be you had to wait for a ship to arrive and it'll take months for someone to get a letter from a loved one, right? And then we innovated to the point where today we are constantly communicating electronically and it's seamless. Nobody thinks about how the messages are sent and how the background technology works. Nobody thinks about it, but it works, right? So we get to communicate. Now, if you think about money and the movement of money, and you gave a good example about, capital and how appreciation of assets rise, it is very similar, right? So, you talked about a company. They issued shares previously, and these shares had value. And that was one model. And then came the concept of, how do we actually create something that allows us to not only raise money, but create value, right? Because that's ultimately what we're all looking for is value creation. I invest today $1. I'm hoping tomorrow I'm going to get $100, right? And what this has done is two things. Number one, simplified that process of value creation. And number two, making it ubiquitous globally because anyone with an internet connected device today can invest in it. So previously you couldn't, right? So you had to go find a broker and all of that. So that was the evolutionary journey. And now that we have this concept where you could invest in crypto, what's happening is, like you brought up the pharmaceutical, I think that's a very good example where medicine historically was created. Anyone could go and create a medicine, you had witch doctors and so forth, right?
Yeah.
And today it's highly regulated, right? You're not going to trust a witch doctor because you don't know what's in their ingredients compared to a medicine that is endorsed by the health department of the nation, right? So what we are seeing today is that because it's become an accepted investment class, regulation is kicking in to actually protect not only consumers, but also differentiate legitimate investment houses or brokers to the ones that are, a little bit more shadier.
So you could compare that to the evolution of everything financial.
Absolutely.
You can take gold from the very beginning. You can take silver, palladium. You can take crude from the beginning. All soft commodities. You can take forex from the beginning. You can take bonds and loans and stuff like that. I mean, you go all the way back to money at the end of the day, how it was created. So everything's had a journey.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's a really good way of describing it because there is obviously fear of what people don't know.
Yeah.
But actually, what's happening here is just that there's a replication. New technology means that there's a replication of the story
100%, right?
that's been around 1,000
Correct.
times before,
Correct.
just in this vertical.
Correct. I mean, stock trading is a good example, Spencer. Started off with the Dutch India company being traded in coffee houses in Amsterdam, right? To the point where today it's this huge, regulated, fully automated financial system. And I feel like when we started back in 2009 in the genesis of Bitcoin to today, right? So that's like 16 years ago. And what we have today is that similar story of evolution that's taken place where you have regulation, you have people that can actually have an understanding of the systems and the processes and the kind of tokens they can invest in and actually invest in the same way they do with shares.
You know what? I'm 55 years old. I know we spoke before we went on camera that you're not too dissimilar in age to me. You're 5 years younger, but without giving away the fact that you're 50. I think what's important is that I'm 55 years old. Now, if you're 20, you think I'm a dinosaur, but if you're 40 or whatnot, you think I'm a little bit older than you.
Yeah.
When I was young and my dad was overseas, we would send letters. Part avion was written on the envelope, the blue and red bits around the edge of the letter. And we would send, and it would take 6 weeks to get to Nigeria to my dad.
Yeah.
Okay. And my dad would then write back and we'd take time to read it. I used to cherish the letters I would get from my dad. But that cycle was 3 months of a letter going out and a letter coming back.
Correct.
And then obviously when I got a little bit older, we had the telex machine.
Yep.
And this telex machine was doing its job. And then we had the fax machine. You're right about that. Nobody cared about the technology behind it. They just cared that they could write something on a piece of paper,
Correct.
send it through this device, and at the other end, this piece of paper would come out with exactly what they'd written the other end.
100%.
That evolution. I remember as a financial advisor, when we would deal with stockbrokers, and I used to be really jealous of all those guys on the trading floor with the different coloured jackets on.
Yeah.
And they were throwing tickets at each other, and they were doing all these hand signals. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then the NASDAQ came out, and it was like, that's going to be the death of these traders. It's like, why? Well, because it's going to be automated. Yeah. And all of those traders were like, that will never catch on.
And here we are.
Okay.
Right?
And here we are now.
Yeah.
The only way of trading is digitally if you buy and sell stocks.
Correct.
You open your trading account, you buy and sell. You press the button, you instantly buy Coca-Cola or whatever it may be you're buying. Okay. And you want to sell the $100,000 of Tesla, right? That's going right. This Bosch second gone, done.
Yeah.
And so that evolution, I think, is really important to remind people of. And if you think about all of those evolutions, there were problems along the way. There were challenges as they were trying to make it perfect. Regulation at the beginning wasn't there. Then regulation had to come in, not because the industry was bad, because like with anything related to money, there's always unscrupulous people that
100%.
want to circumnavigate the system or want to try and find the shortcuts.
Yep.
Okay. Or, okay, are just bad people overall.
Correct.
So that regulation has to come in to protect people.
Correct.
And when you then look at the crypto industry, some companies took that really, really seriously, and some companies didn't take it as seriously as they could have done.
Yep.
Now, I've had various people from your company, Crypto.com, on the show over the course of the years. You're probably the go-to exchange that I've had on the show. And one thing that's always impressed me is those real commitments
Yep.
to regulation. And I'll give you an example of that. Eric Anziani and Stuart Eisted asked me to meet Vara with them.
Yes.
And I at the time of Vara being announced, I'm like, what's that?
Yeah.
Okay, so for everyone's benefit, is the Virtual Assets Regulatory Authority that regulates the crypto industry. And they said, come and meet them and come and talk to them about it, because maybe you could have them on the show. Now, regulators aren't known, okay, for being the best conversationalist on the podcast. So, okay, before I get told off by them, that is a downside. But the upside is that structure was put in place. Now, you've been around the world.
Yes, I have, Spencer.
How does Dubai compare with the rest of the world, okay, of getting themselves organized and ready for this industry?
Oh, Dubai has been, in the forefront of innovating this industry from the get-go, right? So I think it took them a while, but just like everything else in Dubai, and I know, Spencer, you've been around in Dubai for far longer than I have. And what you find in Dubai is once a decision is made, things accelerate really fast. And with the creation, they decided that, 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, they decided that, digital assets are going to be an investment class of its own right. And therefore, they wanted to attract investments. And to do that, they had to come up with stringent regulation and create a regulator to protect consumer interests and so forth, and also promote the industry. And within 6 months or so of making that decision, they created a regulatory authority, had clear regulation, and invited organizations like ourselves, Crypto.com, to apply for a license, which we have got now. And at the same time, promote the industry and investments into the market. That was just 3 or 4 years ago. And now they are one of the leading centers for crypto financial sector, right? A lot of countries are now following suit. So we've got regulations in Europe, Singapore, Hong Kong has just recently announced 2 years ago that they're coming up with this stringent regulation. But the speed that Dubai moves is phenomenal, right? For example, this year is a good example, right? The government of Dubai decided to accept crypto as a payment option for all government services. Obviously, they approached us and we collaborated with them. And within 3 months, they had gone from evaluating whether they should accept crypto as payments to the point of where yesterday they processed the first transaction. Now, I've worked with many governments across the world. It often takes years. There's number of committees, number of meetings that you'd have to have, but the speed of movement is just phenomenal. The other is, it's attracted a lot of talent into the market. So today, we house a huge number of people in Dubai, not only from a perspective of, tech developers, but compliance, legal, product development, and so forth. But at the same time, it's also attracted a lot of crypto investors into the market. So the speed of movement in Dubai is just phenomenal, next to nothing.
So, coming from your point of view, this is just the best place to do business. It's just so easy for you by comparison to, I don't know, London or New York and stuff.
Oh, London and New York is very difficult. Absolutely. It's been refreshing dealing with, at least the authorities, the government, where they're willing to consider innovation, willing to consider different views. And, obviously they make decision independently, but at the same time willing to promote this sort of innovation and willing to give it a go, right? And if you look at it 3 years ago, there was nothing. And today there's a huge industry in Dubai.
When you compare from a regulatory point of view, a country that is not a democracy
Yes.
versus a country that is a democracy, doing what you do you notice a big difference because of that alone?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Look, I'm an Australian. My biggest,
It's okay. I apologize. It's okay. I
uh,
forgive you.
it's super frustrating. I've been championing regulation and the attraction of capital. I mean, Australia is a, beautiful place. It's
Yeah.
got
Awesome.
huge financial industry. It's got natural resources. It's got everything, right? And people want to live there as well. But getting, not only politicians, but regulators to understand that, sometimes innovation requires some degree of risk taking from the country. It is very challenging because, they stick with status quo. It's been 6 years since I've been championing for regulation. Only last month did a draft regulation come out, right? The same with Europe. God forbid, US now is moving really fast, but if you look at historically, they've been very slow movers. So it does make a difference, right? Now, is it good or bad? Hard to tell. But sometimes I wish that, there's some degree of bipartisan support because it's possible where you're supporting a nation's growth. Singapore is a good example, right? It's a democracy, and yet they are willing to champion a lot of this innovation because they recognize that the competitiveness of Singapore depends on them adapting new tech, new services, new industries, and they've been continuously innovating the entire structure of Singapore over the last 4 or 5 decades. So, uh, huge difference. I just wish that, there'd be some degree of bipartisan support in the democracies because when there is, it moves fast.
Goes really well, and again helps more and more people that are looking at this as an important asset class and wanting to feel safe knowing that they're in a regulated environment.
Correct. I mean, I'll give you some numbers, right? So in Australia, population 22, 23 million, roughly about 3 to 4 million people, about 20% of the population own crypto. But we don't have any regulation in crypto. People have been owning crypto, especially Bitcoin, since 2010 and 11. So it is one of the first nations to, or at least the population in the nation, to adopt crypto, to start investing in crypto, but yet they don't have any regulation. Right now, you go look at Dubai, most people wouldn't have, but they've attracted all of these investors to now reside in Dubai because it just supports and promotes such investment activities in a regulated manner.
It's interesting what you said earlier about every government service can be paid for with crypto.
100%. I'm very excited about this, Spencer.
That's nuts.
It's nuts. It's
Is there anywhere in the world, or anywhere else in the world where that
nowhere else in the world you could pay government services with crypto. We did our first love transaction yesterday in front here, His Highness, the finance minister, and fortunately it was a success. And we processed that transaction in front of a crowd. It was brilliant. Absolutely am encouraged by the future of crypto payments, at least in Dubai.
There's lots of exchanges. Let's talk about some of the negative stuff as well and just get that out on the table, because I want people that are in their car driving to work right now that are going, oh, it's all a bit scary, that stuff. I've seen what happened, and let's talk about the famous one, the Sam Bankman-Fried and the FTX debacle that took place some time back now. What's that, maybe 2 years, is it now?
Yep.
Maybe 2 years.
2.5 years ago.
That was an exchange that was well marketed.
Mm-hmm.
The brand was everywhere.
Yeah.
Sam Bankman-Fried was the
hero,
mad nutty professor type character
Yep.
that stood out as an unusual avatar.
Yep.
crypto was doing well for a period of the time that exchange was open, and then it come crashing down. Now, I know it's not your place to talk about other exchanges. I get that,
Sure.
but tough. We're on a show here, and I know, and I don't buy into not being able to
Yeah.
have a conversation because everyone wants to protect their brand. I want to have the conversation because because other people will be saying, Spencer, why are you not asking about this kind of stuff? When an exchange like that goes down, when there are situations like what happened with Bybit, I
Yes.
think it's less than a year ago, where there was a huge amount of theft on their exchange. When that kind of stuff takes place, it obviously makes people more scared.
Correct.
And not only do you have arguably what is a medium to higher risk volatile asset class, exclude the meme coins, let's just stay on the normal coins, okay? You've got a volatile asset class, then you've got these scenarios that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, people are going to be doubtful,
Yeah.
question, fearful,
Correct.
okay, about what goes on.
Right.
So how do you guys at Crypto.com help to allay the fears that people have? And how did you make what happened? And what did you have to do in response to that
Yeah.
to make your clients feel safer, more comfortable, happier?
Spencer, let me go back to history a little bit of our company, right? So subtle difference. Again, not doing a promote here, but fundamentally, when our founders started Crypto.com, was a period of greater turmoil than there was in 2022, right? So back in 2016, when the firm was started, you had Mt. Gox. Most people don't know Mt. Gox, but it was a Japanese exchange that got hacked and totally collapsed overnight, right? And they made a decision, a very different call than what existed at that time, to build a trusted, reliable, crypto-based firm that focused on two key components. Number one is regulatory compliance. We talked a lot about regulation previously and how it provides some degree of support to consumers. And the second is information security. To that end, the organization had gone out to obtain, a number of licenses globally. So today, Crypto.com is the most regulated and most licensed crypto organization on the planet. The second is information security. We talked about, the hack of Bybit. We went out to make sure that customers are protected from an information security perspective. To that end, we have obtained, a number of certification from, global leading, standards like ISO, SOC 2 Type 2, and a whole bunch of others. And these are independently verified and certified by auditors, right? So those were the two base principles. Now, we talked about FTX. It was rather unfortunate because, on the face of it, it appeared to be, highly legitimate, well-run business, only to have, it was pretty much like Swiss cheese, right? But I'd like to equate that to Bernie
I
Madoff.
like Swiss cheese.
You do like Swiss cheese, full of holes. But it's like Bernie Madoff, right? You're in the financial industry. Bernie Madoff was very popular, huge wealth manager for a number of very popular people, right? But was a total smokescreen, right? But that did not make all investment managers bad people. A lot of people are, with a lot of integrity, obeying the law, which most of us are, right? And likewise, I think, what this had done is flush out the industry back then and created a degree of awareness among regulators or at least governments, right? That they needed to ensure that you're protecting people and you have proper regulation. And that's accelerated some of these use cases as well. So I sense, from an organizational perspective, we at Crypto.com from day one in our DNA have focused on compliance and making sure that we're fully regulated. And second is information security. And I think with the evolution of time in this case, or the movement of time, we have got a total flushing out of the bad actors. And, going forward, my hope and wish is that, the industry would be held accountable and actually provide the services that consumers are demanding for.
Yeah, I get that. Do you know what? It makes me think about banks when they go bust, and they still go bust to this day.
Oh, 100%.
Okay,
Right? Yeah.
and you know whether that was the Bank of Credit and Commerce International back in the UK years and years ago, BCCI, when kind of I was starting my financial services journey, through to the Northern Rock and these different types of banks in the UK that went bust. Businesses go bust.
100%.
Businesses, sometimes legitimate businesses were people that make bad decisions. You take a Barings Bank and Nick Leeson, okay? At the end of the day, the bank was a decent bank. You just had one guy in there that they didn't have the right systems and processes to kind of red flag the behavior. But Barings wasn't a bad bank, but it collapsed and lost fortunes down in Singapore all those years ago. And so when you see exchanges go wrong, I go, okay, there's the bad guys, okay? There's the Bernie Madoffs, there's the scammers, okay, they exist. But there's also people that run businesses that end up with bad businesses, and Lehman Brothers is another example of that. And I look at that and I say to myself, the good that comes from it is the lessons that are learned and the new rules and regulations that are then brought in to help stop that happening again. And nothing is ever bulletproof.
Correct.
And if crypto is a fast-moving, developing ecosystem and asset class, then the sooner these errors and these catastrophes happen, the sooner that it can be identified that there's a crack, a leak, a break, a hole that needs to be filled so that never happens again.
Correct.
By the regulators, plus the exchanges that say, this is really important.
Correct.
Revenue might be important for some, but for long-term revenue, that's the most important for us. And I suppose when I look at it, it's like Crypto.com. You were telling me earlier, just give me the behavior of investors. What is it you said earlier?
Demographic based, right?
Crypto.com is definitely a boomer in the comparison. So for the benefit of everybody else, just take me through those steps that you told me earlier.
So we were talking about investments, right? So how do different demographics invest in certain, at least in crypto, right? So you have your millennials and Gen Zs and Gen X and boomers, right? Let's just keep it very simple for now. You have the millennials and Gen Zs, active traders, right? And I think you see this behavior pattern in not only in crypto, but perhaps in every other asset category, including shares, where generally when the market is booming, they tend to pile in, right? And then, eventually markets do turn. And the moment it turns, that's when they sell, right? So, which is contrary to how you should invest. You should buy low and sell high. And then when the market turns, you get the Gen X's and boomers coming in and buying. So every time the market turns, Gen X's and boomers tend to buy crypto. And, I know, Spencer, you were mentioning this earlier as well. You tend to buy and hold. Classic behaviors of Gen X and boomers. And, we spoke about this quite a bit earlier, where generations of X and boomers have wisdom. We're a bit older, in our 50s, a little bit gray. We have had battle scars. We have had done the, buy high, sell low, and had the pain of suffering losses, where we have learned that, true investments take time. And that allows for, more thoughtful decision making in investments, and we are patient to allow the money to grow slowly. And Bitcoin's a good example. We talked about it going to 100,000. Nobody believed it, right? Everyone thought it's, if you said to someone in 2021 that in 2025 Bitcoin is going to hit $100,000, they will laugh you out of the room. But here we are today. But those who were patient 5 years ago, who were not interested in 5 months, 5 days or 5 months movement, are reaping the benefits.
Yeah, that should be a lesson to you, Alex. Alex about 3 years ago was half his mind every single podcast. Half his mind was on the markets and on crypto prices, and he'd come in. Oh, you need to know what's happening here, and he'd get excited and
by minute refreshing his app, trying to see, is it gone up, is it gone down?
Okay, let's do some jargon simplification for some people, because I know that other people out there sitting going, "Oh, I still don't get it all. I don't get it all." So I'm gonna say a word. I want you to describe it for me. Is that okay?
Oh, wow. This is like playing, guess the word, right?
Yeah,
Yep,
absolutely.
sure.
Okay, describe. It's a buzzword. Tokenization. What does that actually mean?
It's basically putting out an asset into the blockchain and allowing it to be transacted. But let's put it this way. Easy.
Right, that's way too complicated.
Complicated, right?
Make it
So,
simple.
let me
I'm
start.
6 years old.
Yep, it's like sending a message on email. So instead of writing a letter, it used to be a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Today you're sending emails, right? Electronic transactions. You're making it faster, simpler, easier. But when I send you an email, for example, Spencer, you have that email with you, right? It's
Okay.
your
So
email.
so what was so if tokenization is the email,
Yes.
what's the letter?
The letter was, for example, the gold itself. So let's say gold, for example.
Yeah.
The gold bar is the letter, physical, stored. The email is ownership of, you own the
gold bar.
Gold bar.
Yeah.
And that's it. So now you can pass Alex that email or token, and Alex would own the gold bar without the gold bar having to need to be moved or sent to Alex for him to own it.
Got it. Understood. Okay, describe to me what a stable coin is. I'm 6 years old.
It's a check.
Okay.
Yeah, it's equivalent to a check. That's it. So I issue you a check.
Give me an example of a stable coin, and then give me the comparison between the what is and what isn't.
Okay. USDC, stablecoin, equivalent to a check, which means that if I give you one USDC, you have $1 equivalent that you can go and redeem it at an exchange like us, for example.
Can my stable coin change its value?
No, it won't. It's $1. So if I had written $1 on a check, pass it on to you, it will always be $1.
So if I've got 100 USDC, I've got $100.
Exactly right.
Okay, excellent stuff. That sounds safe.
It is very safe.
Okay, folks, let's talk about real estate. Now, a recent partnership that we've just established on the podcast is with AYS Developers. Luxury properties with high-end finishes from people that really understand the subject. Often in Dubai, you'll find stuff that is maybe substandard. With AYS Developers, you're not going to see that. You're going to see fantastic properties that you can buy, you can invest in, you can make a home on Dubai Islands and other places too. So go visit aysdevelopers.ae and check them out. I promise you it'll be worth the trip. Let's talk about the Trump media deal, because that's been interesting going on in the news. Okay, I followed it loosely, but there'll be people out there that won't have a clue what I'm about to say. So take me from the top. What's going on?
So basically, it's a listed company called Yorkville, which we did a reverse merger without going into the detail, right?
Yeah.
Keeping it simple, basically, this listed company is going to act as a treasury company and buy CRO, and it will run validation nodes to actually generate a yield on that.
Okay, so we see recently in the news stuff going on between Crypto.com and some big Trump media deal.
Yeah.
Most people might have scanned across it. The crypto bros definitely understand it, but lots of people won't. So can you give me an understanding of what took place?
Sure. It's basically, we did this deal with Trump Media Group to actually acquire crypto tokens through a listed company. So basically, the listed company had raised roughly about 600 million, or maybe I think it was $1 billion or so. And all the funds raised is going to be used to buy a particular crypto token called CRO, which is, a partner or strategic organization that we sponsor as well. So that's basically it, Spencer. So
why did you do it? What's the interest in doing something like that for an organization like Crypto.com?
Yeah, so for us, it's basically demonstrating that there's a possibility of a traditional finance-based business, which is basically a company listed on the stock exchange, be able to raise funds, and also at the same time invest in crypto, right? So why would this be valuable to users? Because number one, if you do not kind of trust exchanges, for example, so if you want to buy a crypto token, you want to get exposure to crypto, but you don't trust crypto organization, you can buy shares in this company, which most people know about, right? So you can now still own crypto without owning crypto directly.
That's interesting.
Yes.
So that gives access to people in a different way.
100%, right? So for example, my brother, for example, he's similar age to you, but he's not a big crypto
Young and
player.
handsome and
Young,
he's
handsome, good looking, but he's equal to me in, follically challenged, but
So he looks nothing like me.
nothing
What are you
like
trying
you.
to say?
But he, even though I work in the industry,
Mm.
I talk about it at dinner tables, during, our weekend dinners together, has not invested a single dollar. But he would invest in shares. Now, if there was a company listed on the NASDAQ, which this is, and it is invested in crypto, he would be willing to invest in it because he believes that by going through a broker, investing his money, it is safer than buying crypto directly because there's no hacks, there's no, I'm dealing with a scammy organization and so forth, right? So it increases the number of people who will be able to invest in crypto without directly investing it themselves.
I love that. But that almost, it's great, but it almost works against you to some degree, doesn't it? It's almost like those people that are nervous, rather than getting them calmer, more convinced, more
Yeah.
persuaded
Yeah,
to
yeah,
get and open an account with crypto.com,
Yeah.
you're giving them a way of using their money differently.
yeah,
And okay, I know that indirectly it benefits you, but it
Yeah.
doesn't benefit you in exactly the same way.
absolutely right. But at the same time, I guess, it has been our mission, right, that we believe in this asset class. Absolutely everyone in the organization, including our founders and co-founders, absolutely believe in the asset class. We believe in the future of crypto revolutionizing the world. But human behavior being such, not everybody would, want to be directly involved in it. So, for example, right, let's take, we still have, active investment managers
Yeah.
that would actively invest for organizations, right? And as a result, you have ETFs, you have this, you have that has been created. But ultimately, all these ETF own is direct shares. But people are willing to actually pass on the responsibility for investing to these investment managers to buy a particular ETF that actually then subsequently invest in shares, right? So we've taken that model and said, hey, look, there are going to be categories of investors very similar to the demographic behaviors that we have seen previously in investing. There are going to be categories of investors that would want to invest directly. Say, for example, I invest directly in shares or crypto, and others would want some form of passive investment, and therefore they would also participate. What we're doing is actually increasing the number of participants, whether directly or indirectly, into investing into crypto.
What is it? How do businesses use it? How do individuals use it? Give us an understanding.
Crypto.com Pay basically is every Crypto.com customer being able to pay for goods and services in their everyday life. That's the nutshell. So if you'd pay for, you walk into Dubai duty free and you'd pay for your bottle of, wine that you brought back, right? You pay with your card, right? This allows customers to pay with crypto at the point of sale.
So is this that means to me that you're creating almost like a bank account.
100%. It's more
So
than that,
I don't
right?
I don't need to have my HSBC, Emirates MBD or whatever it may be bank account, because I can just have my income paid onto my crypto.com platform
Yeah.
and I can pay for everything through there.
Well, that would be the future. We would love to see that happen.
But then what is crypto.com pay doing? At the
So-
moment, you're saying that I can, let's say I've got $100,000 I've put onto my account. I've got $50,000 in Bitcoin and $50,000 in Ethereum. Let's just say
Okay,
that,
sure,
okay? Just
sure.
say that's what I've got.
Yeah.
And and I'm an old man. You've told me I'm a boomer, which I'm not, but I'll take it nicely and I buy and hold. And so what's important for me to understand is I can use that account to buy whatever I want to buy, whenever I want to buy it, no matter what it is, no matter in which country, through crypto.com Pay.
That's correct. but using your Bitcoin and Ethereum. So in this case, you have $100,000 worth.
Yeah.
So you can buy $100,000 worth of goods and services, or whatever you want to do, and pay it with Bitcoin directly or Ethereum directly.
And it's taking the Bitcoin, turning it into fiat money, and then it's paying it for the end user, yeah?
Correct. For the merchants.
The merchants, that's right. They receive it in fiat.
Correct.
In real money. So for people who don't understand, fiat money, just it's real money. Okay,
real money.
As opposed to crypto money, digital money. You've got debit cards as well, crypto debit cards. Okay, do they work in that way? Is the Crypto.com Pay process using the Crypto.com credit card?
No, it's completely different. So the Crypto.com card or debit card uses real money to pay. So you'd load it up, you'd sell your Bitcoin, load up your card to spend. Right, so it's basically
it's a prepaid card.
Correct. It's a prepaid card, right? So it's basically an opportunity for you to, rather than withdrawing it to your bank and spending it, you'll be able to withdraw your money, real money, into your card and be able to spend that.
Okay, but loads of people do that.
100%.
So what's special about that?
Because it allows our customers the opportunity to work within the ecosystem, right? So if you
yeah. The special thing is, it's because I can do that on my normal bank account. Okay, I can do that, but I couldn't have done that previously on a crypto exchange.
Correct.
So you're bringing more banking services across to the crypto
100%.
exchange. You're just making this more and more and more normalized for me in every way.
Correct. So now you have an option to either pay with your debit card, right, a prepaid card, or you could pay directly with crypto. Now, in some countries, as you've read probably the news that, there's this advent of stable coins, and, we talked about it a little bit, what a stable coin is. All countries and all banks and all, central banks are thinking about stable coins and the issuance of stable coins, right? And this is like, call it digital real money.
Yeah, stable coin in their own currency.
In their own currency.
Yeah.
Now,
so a ringgit stable coin in Malaysia, yeah?
Yep, a ringgit.
Yeah.
Or Aussie dollars or dirhams. Now, a dirham stable coin, you'll be able to use Crypto.com Pay to pay directly to the merchant when it becomes available. So why is this important? Because it increases speed, increases efficiency, monies move in real time. We talked about this at the start, right? So the merchant, in this case, Dubai Duty Free, is going to get, the 1,000 dirhams immediately in their account, compared to waiting for a day or two for the monies to arrive in their account.
And that's important for merchants.
100%, because it increases liquidity, right?
Yeah.
Increases cash flow.
Yeah, perfect. That's super exciting for both parties then.
It is. Look,
you're the first guys to do this.
We are the first and only guys to do this in UAE at the moment. So today we've launched with Department of Finance, and that's what we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
But we've already lined up a few. We made the announcement with Emirates Airlines, so soon you'll be able to buy airline tickets with crypto or a dirham stablecoin, right? We have announced it with Dubai Duty Free. So not only could you buy your plane ticket, come back, go to Dubai Duty Free, buy, all of your duty free goods and services, everything transacted with and paid with either crypto or dirham stablecoin. And of course, the merchants love it because it's cheaper for them, faster for them, and increases their cash flow immediately. So very excited about this, Spencer. Very excited.
Will we get to a place where it becomes like Apple Pay?
Yes, 100%. Exactly the same. So we would love it to be synonymous instead of Apple Pay, Crypto.com Pay.
Is there any other company in the world that we still say .com?
I hope you take Amazon.com.
But we don't, do we?
We don't.
Like,
so
Crypto.com is the only one, the only .com that was. Is there anyone? There isn't, is there?
Yeah.
Crypto.com is the only .com.
I think it's helped us differentiate then, right? So
I feel like I need to say www. Let's roll forward 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try and imagine the future. We've seen this whole digital ID thing being talked about in the UK, and people are against it. People are against digital money because they think there's going to be more control. Mm-hmm. You hear some kind of like conspiracy theorists that you should fight to keep cash because cash is important. Do you know why I like cash?
Yes, because
Because I come from an age where, and you'll know this because we're similar ages, where on a Friday night you'd go and get the cash. That would include your taxi fare home. That would include your burger at midnight, okay? And it would include your money for the night. And when you run out of it, you run out of it.
night's
The
over,
night's
right?
over, yeah, okay. Fun's done, yeah? Nowadays, okay, the fact that you can tap your phone at every opportunity, here, there, and everywhere without thinking about it, and often, and I watch my behavior without even knowing the price,
Yes.
okay, makes that dangerous for me. Not for me, but for other people that are doing the same thing that maybe don't have the financial resources I do.
Correct.
And so that's why I don't like it. But for every other reason, I do, because I just think it's so much easier to manage, okay, when we understand this better. What are your thoughts on in 5 or 10 years' time where we'll be? Do you think cash will be gone altogether? Do you think crypto.com and other exchanges like it will be so integrated into our everyday lives that we won't see them any different to how we use bank accounts and other forms of trading accounts?
In 5 years' time, I think we're going to see a major change in how society operates, right? So we have already seen this trend. I track a lot of, monetary information from Australia, which is where I'm from. I mentioned that earlier. Cash usage today is roughly only about 5% of all transactions in Australia. 5%. It used to be just 10 years ago, roughly about 30%.
Oh, wow.
Yes, 10 years ago, it was 30%, and it's declined dramatically. Now, one would argue, would it go to zero? Perhaps not, because, in Australia, you still pay your tradies and all of that in cash. For whatever reason, we shall not discuss here, whether it's tax avoidance or whatever, right? So that cash usage would still be there. But if you think about a society that doesn't have, UAE is a good example. I have come here so many times. I hardly carry dirhams in my wallet. I hardly pay anyone in dirhams. And then I realize, oh my God, how do I tip? The valet driver or someone else, right?
Yeah.
And you just completely ignore it these days. So, we talk about, and about 4 years ago, I was trying to solve this problem, at least, and you'd recognize this coming from UK, right? Buskers rely on cash tips, right?
Yeah.
And how do they survive now? So if you go down to Melbourne, which is where I'm from, you hardly see any buskers anymore because no one carries cash.
Because no one's going to go up to their payment device
And
tap their phone.
Nobody does, right? So it's
$5 Aussie dollars to say well done on your playing of the guitar.
Correct. So you have loose change, whether it's $2 coin that you used to have, or at least a $5 note. That was the max, right? So you carry this, you open your wallet and go, oh, I have $5 note, bam. Or you had loose change in your pocket, it'd go bam, right?
So, yeah.
And you had this, culture of buskers playing in the streets, which, created this huge, kind of cultural scene in a city, right? That's completely gone. And in the next 5 years, you'd see this transformation occur because as societies move cashless, you're going to see a lot of those cash-based trades decline, right? So it's going to be...
You know what? This is really interesting. And Stars Play, which is like a Middle East version of Netflix.
Yep.
When they launched in Saudi Arabia, they worked with the telecoms companies to build their costs into the telecom service providers' billing, basically.
Yes. Yeah.
And here in the UAE, that went down really well. But in Saudi Arabia, they didn't like it.
Oh, wow.
People still wanted to go and pay cash.
Directly.
Yeah, and buy essentially their pass. It's almost like buying scratch cards.
Yeah.
But go and pay cash. And they had a real problem at the beginning of the journey.
Yeah.
Because for them, it's like common sense. It's just added to your phone bill, yeah, and it's paid by direct debit every month. Happy days.
Yeah.
But people are like, no. I want to pay for my month.
Yeah.
Okay, of my subscription to this Netflix equivalent, and. And I know because he's been on the show a couple of times. He said it was a challenge for us at the beginning, and we never anticipated that.
Yeah.
Because in the West, that would not even be considered.
Correct. Yeah.
So that evolution of those behaviours, I can see how that just moves further and further in that direction. But that go for 30% cash down to 5% cash in Australia.
That's massive.
It is. And I'm sure you could, along with buskers, write a list of 100 different
Correct.
organizations where cash is actually better. But for the not for the merchant, but for the person spending the money, that's just convenience 101, isn't it?
Oh,
That
I think it's both ways, right, Spencer? You know, recently the Reserve Bank, and again, I speak about Australia quite a bit because it's where I know more about details,
yeah.
right? So the Reserve Bank of Australia came up with, historically merchant surcharging. So, when you use a card,
Uh-huh.
the shop, let's say a cafe, gets to charge you the cost of processing the transaction with your card. So roughly it averages about 1.5%, right? Now, I've I have written to the RBA and in fact, put in submissions to the RBA, Reserve Bank of Australia, arguing that that's nonsensical because it should be the cost of doing business. Now, why is that a cost of doing business? So, for example, if you're a busy cafe in Melbourne, you're selling coffee, everybody loves coffee in Melbourne. You have a queue of, 50 people at 7:30 in the morning. You don't want to accept cash, right? Because you want the teller to be able to serve you coffee, bam, tap, pay, next, tap, pay, next, right? So there's a degree of efficiency created for the business because they're accepting cards. The second is your teller now, the person serving you for the day, doesn't have to count the money, doesn't have to go to the bank. They don't have to worry about theft because none of this exists. So, there is a huge benefit moving towards a cashless society. It becomes more efficient, it becomes more, reliable, there's less tax evasion, so it helps the economy grow. The downside is, and we've seen this in a number of markets, when systems fail. So, for example, the bank that has to process the system goes down, and this has happened again in Australia, where one of the major banks' payment system failed for 24 hours. People were walking into shops with groceries, unable to pay for those groceries because all they had was cards, right? And the ATM machine wouldn't work because they couldn't work and were unable to pay. Now, here's where I get very excited, Spencer.
Go on.
We talked about Crypto.com Pay.
Yeah.
Every merchant should start thinking about alternate payment systems, right? Because cash is not going to come back. So how else would consumers be able to pay? Now, if you had options, whether it's Crypto.com Pay or Alipay or some other pay, they'd be able to make that transfer even though the bank system that accept cards fail, right? So one, it provides an alternate payment system. And two, it allows for instant payments that we talked about and all that benefit that comes from paying with crypto.
The money hits you instantly. Do you still pay the same fees if you're the merchant?
Oh, it's lower, right? Because
Because Visa and MasterCard and Amex are on, you pay the fees. So if you weren't to use those or you used another system, are you able to avoid those fees?
100%.
So it's better for you as the business as well.
Correct. So cheaper, faster, better liquidity.
So Carl, let's talk about adoption in the first world, compare it to the developing world. I've made a documentary over the last few years on human trafficking where I saw in Nepal kids had a mobile phone, but nothing else. I've been in places in developing countries where there isn't much of an infrastructure. I know that in India there's a lot of people that they call it unbanked.
Correct.
Yeah, and I know where there's a huge problem in India with farmers that commit suicide. They commit suicide because they borrow money from loan sharks.
Correct.
Those loan sharks allow them then to buy a tractor or a plow and fertilizer and seed, but they then have to pay the loan shark back.
Mhm.
He wants his money back. They can't afford to pay him back. He then takes the tractor. He then takes the seed. He then takes the land,
Yes.
and their lives are destroyed because they don't have a structure they can use. And the loan sharks charge in 50% a week interest.
Yep.
When you look at what you've got with Crypto.com and we go forward into the future and look at these, because we brush it off a lot of the time, we live in the first world and we take it for granted. But if you're in Nigeria, you're in Kenya, you're in Mali, you're in Mauritania, these places, where and in India as well, Bangladesh and Nepal, what kind of developments will you see take place
Sure.
that will make life easier and better and more cohesive for these types of people?
Spencer, maybe if you don't mind, maybe I'd like to share, some of my, past history, right? So a little bit of a story here. So my family escaped war, and when they did, whatever they could get their hands on was taken, and whether it's little pieces of jewelry and all of that, and left the country they came from, which is Sri Lanka, right? Headed off to Malaysia. Now, if I think back about that time, if we have the technology today, right, and the systems that we have today, could things have been different? Yeah, I think it would have been, right. So, assuming my grandparents and my parents had a mobile phone, had a wallet that could store this stable coin token in US dollars, they could have left with US dollars, right? Because they didn't rely on a bank. They didn't rely on, governments confiscating their assets at that moment in time, be able to leave with their wealth, right? That same story plays out today everywhere we go. You brought out, whether it's modern day slavery, whether it's, loan sharks taking away wealth, whether, in Africa, which I recently was just last week talking about how do we solve for, parts of this continent that is still reliant on migrants, or at least economic migrants, sending money back to their families, right? So M-Pesa, which I think you might have, past heard about it, the mobile money system works so well because people can send funds, right? But with the advent of, crypto-related technologies, I'll just use that as a term, we think we can solve further now where the mobile phone itself, right, as long as it's connected to the internet, which most mobile phones today are, you'll be able to open an account, not with a bank, on your own right, whether it's with like crypto.com or someone else, or even indirectly, and be able to own a stable currency in that phone and be able to move wherever you wanted to go, right? So I really believe in the next 5 to 10 years, again, this is my human aspiration to help resolve some of this, which is why I'm passionate about this industry and why I'm passionate about, driving at least crypto.com pay and, the work that I'm doing in financial services for the firm, because I think it's a real world problem that we're solving for.
So we've dived into a lot of the new stuff that's coming on board. We can see an evolution in how we're going to behave. We can see the evolution that took place that we didn't think was going to happen that has now happened.
Yeah.
And we can see there's a company that have really decided to go slow and steady by making sure regulation was at the forefront of everything they did, whilst innovation played a part.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm lucky because I've met your bosses and
Yeah.
other colleagues of yours along the way, and I think you're a bloody good bunch of people, if
Oh,
I'm really
thank
honest
you.
with you. And so I consider myself fortunate to have been exposed to you guys over time. But lastly, just before we finish, okay, crypto.com is one of many exchanges out there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why do you believe in crypto.com more than any other?
Two things, Spencer, like I mentioned. One is we do the right things. We're focused on doing the right things from day one. That's very important. Number two, for me, I think I work with some of the best people I have worked with in my entire career. Smart, intelligent, humble, and people with very deep integrity. That wakes me up every day, and which is why I'm still here. Almost 5 years in.
Have you enjoyed being on the show today?
Absolutely, I absolutely love the conversation. I love the energy. It's been an absolute pleasure being here, Spencer. Absolute pleasure.
Karl, thank you for coming to join us on the show today.
Thank you very much, Spencer.